one, if you've watched this channel before, you know that I don't initiate, and I've made like loads of videos on that. This video was inspired by my Bumble video, because the Bumble video is where I get the majority of my hate messages, and at the end of the day it's literally just my opinion. I don't initiate because it doesn't personally work for me. If you want to initiate with guys, you can, that's fair enough. You know, the sperm swims to the egg and all that. Because my brain works like this, I thought, do you know what would actually happen if I just did the complete opposite of what I tell you guys to do? What if I just initiate for content? You know, I might find my husband, so let's just date like a man, let's initiate, let's choose my own penis basically, and just go off out into the world and let's see what happens. And the reason I was doing this is because I'll just insert a clip here of the messages that I'm still getting. I'm still getting the thirsty messages that I spoke about in my previous video. And generally as well, I tend to attract the certain type of guy. Because I've got a youngish face, I tend to attract a certain type of individual that's into a kind of BDSM dynamic, or they want a kind of power play dynamic. I get a lot of like messages from men that are looking for a submissive, and they obviously haven't watched my channel. I get told a lot by people online that I look like the type that would be a submissive. I don't know if it's because they've been watching 50 Shades, and I don't know if it's the stereotype of like white girl with long brown hair. That seems to be the submissive type that people are looking for. I think sometimes how men work is that it's more of a challenge for them to get with the girl that doesn't dress in a sexy way. It's almost more of a challenge for them. I think sometimes that's why I get the pervy messages, is because I'm so like conservative, as in I don't really dress in like a sexy way with like boobs hanging out. So that leads us nicely into what happened when I initiated basically. So I've been doing this on and off for a few weeks, and I would say when I'm initiating, the majority of people do not reply. So I'm obviously not their type. And this is one of the main reasons I don't initiate, because like I've said before in my videos, for men it's looks based, and if they don't fancy me, there's no point me messaging them. It was also taking like a lot of time to kind of message all these guys, and I couldn't really keep up with what was going on. I swear I needed to have like a spreadsheet. From the ones that did reply, I got what I would call a very lazy response. So they would reply, but then it would be a couple of days later would get another reply, and you could tell these men were replying out of boredom, and you could tell that these men weren't actually interested. They were just replying just for a bit of fun really, and just for a bit of banter. I don't know if Americans have that word, but they just wanted to chat basically. I wasn't really getting anywhere. A lot of these men would drop out, they'd make excuses and say, oh, we live so far away. I'm finding if I'm not like literally on someone's doorstep, then they literally do not want to date me. Because I live just outside of London, if I'm messaging people inside London, they're like, no, it's too far, it's too far. People these days don't want to make the effort to travel to meet someone. It's just crazy. But oh my god. So one man I did message, he was, as they say in Love Island, my type on paper, as I thought, a nice intelligent guy, and seemed to have, you know, his stuff sorted basically. So I messaged this guy. I didn't really think he would reply, because in my brain I was like, this guy's probably out of my league. And out of all the guys I initiated with, he did seem more interested, and he was carrying like a conversation. So then we moved it to like a phone call, and the phone call was like, I don't know if it was fine. My kind of spidey senses kicked in, and I was like, there's something not quite right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And this is why I always try and listen to my gut instinct, because my gut instinct was like, no, there's something not quite right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But then, like I said in my other video, I'm trying to be more open, and I can be a bit standoffish with men, and I'm like really trying to be more open. So maybe because of that, I was like, I'll just give him a chance. And he suggested a FaceTime, and I was like, yeah, because part of me is like, I don't think this guy's gonna be real. But I was almost like a bit too good to be true. But I was like, well, if he wants to FaceTime, then he's obviously not a catfish. He must be real. Because catfishes don't ask to cam up within a few days. So we organised a FaceTime. I don't even know how to say this. It's So when we did the FaceTime, instead of me seeing his face, he was undressed from down below. And basically he was masturbating, and then he just finished, and then he hung up on me. And afterwards, I was just in such shock, because as women are we're used to the dick pic now. We're used to guys sending their penis like inappropriately. It's sadly almost normal, and you don't even think about it now. What used to be shocking, maybe if a guy did that 10 years ago, people would be absolutely disgusted, but these days women just have to put up with a load of shit, basically. But after this incident happened, it's such a weird feeling. I felt so violated. I felt like this is my home, and a guy had done that to me, and he'd literally looked at my face and used my face to masturbate, and I never met this guy before. And I just felt like the whole experience wasn't consensual. It was something that he'd done that I didn't want him to do. And I don't know, maybe people will watch this and interpret it as like funny and comical, but it left me feeling so violated that this guy had done that, and like I didn't even know him, and he'd literally just, I think what was worse was that he'd literally built up my trust when he clearly was not interested in me, and he just did that for his own amusement and for his own pleasure. And I was just sitting there almost a bit like not panicky, but a bit like my breath was like shortening, and I was just like, this guy has really violated me. And I was thinking, does this happen to other women? Is this a common thing? Do a lot of women get this? And I just think it's disgusting that someone would do that. Like, that I'm literally on a dating site to try and meet someone, and there are absolute disgusting, horrible people on the internet that will literally do that. And I genuinely think it's because I initiated first. It's because he had no investment in me. It's because I sent the first message. If a guy had sent the first message, I don't think he would have done that, because there would have been that initial wanting to get to know someone. And even if a guy is really into you, they have self-control and they can hold back. It's not as if men are animals and can't hold back. So that experience, it did shape me for like a day or so, and it did make me a bit upset. And I'm quite like a tough person, and I think it tapped into that part of me where men had pushed my boundaries before, and it felt like he was completely overstepping a boundary, and the whole experience just made me so uncomfortable. I literally just blocked the man. And then I felt guilty because I'd given this man my phone number and he had my phone number. But thankfully, like, since I've blocked him, I haven't heard from him at all, and he hasn't messaged me on the site. He was basically just using women to get this cheap thrill of just masturbating to random women. You kind of think if someone did that in public, if a guy did that in public, he'd be arrested. But because he did that over the phone, nothing can be done about it. And because it wasn't on the POF site, POF do not have any legal requirement to deal with that or follow that up. Because it happened between two people, and you could argue that it was a consensual phone call, POF has no legal standing on that. So it's just something that unfortunately just have to put down to experience. And I think if there are women out there that aren't even shocked by that story, I think it's just a sign of the times that women have become so used to this unsolicited sexual behaviour from men that they that it almost doesn't even bother them anymore. And that's what I feel sad about, is that A, some women probably will watch this and won't think it's a problem, and B, some men, obviously not all men, but some men think that it's okay to do that. As I say, it wasn't as if I'd known this person, it wasn't as if we'd been on a few dates and he was just being a bit cheeky and flirty. Someone I never met before literally thought it was okay to masturbate over WhatsApp. And yeah, I'm not going to let this set me back, but it is difficult. I think if I actually put a video up and speak about my experience, then maybe like it will like warn some people. And yeah, so that's the main reason I'm like telling the story, is for just women to be more aware of what can happen and just to stay safe when you're dating, really.